Welcome to part 26 of the XC restoration. In this one, we take the engine off the stand here, we put the Thermoquad on, we do some work on that. We didn't get to finish it with the settings and that sort of thing because basically we had a storm coming and everything was outside and I had to sort of pack up. So I wanted to get it off. I can deal with the choke and some of the finer adjustments when it's in the car. It defeats the purpose of the engine stand, but what do? I needed to get it out, or get it off I should say. So we're all ready to put it in. Almost, we've just got to put the gearbox and bell housing on. But welcome to part 26, hope you enjoy. So this is what happens when you have a cheap gazebo and it gets windy. I think there's wreckage from the Titanic that's in better nick than that. It's rained last night, so because it's full of water and everything, but it is absolutely shagged. Poor Susie. It looked really good. We've got our large table there. It's all been blown around by the wind. It got really, really windy the other day. My goodness me. That is trashed. Ooh, fishy. Oh, that wasn't good. Right, but the idea of this is we'll start this up again. I want to get it nice and warm and put the Thermoquad on with it warm, if you know what I mean. So later on I can set up the choke, I can plumb it, all that sort of stuff. But at the moment I just want to start it up. I built another shed out the back, so I want to get this off the stand today and then put it on the ground to put the gearbox and everything on it. And put this test stand in the shed. I noticed this thing was dripping out while it was sitting there. It's a loose Jubilee clip. Not leaking anywhere. I haven't started this for a little while. Just hoping it starts up. Parts to put on. I'll have to make up a gasket for that. Still on choke at the moment, but I just want to warm it up a bit so I can give it a change this over. Right, so I've got to make a double-sided gasket for these. I might have to file. I haven't filed the flushing off this thing yet, but what is the best way? All I'm really interested in doing, I'll just go around those. And again, we use a wad punch. I'm not going to go into too much of this because I've already sort of done it before. I can just bang out the holes there. Did a pretty cruddy job actually. You can just go around with a razor blade and just shave the excess off. But more importantly, the inside of these. I thought this would be a neater way of doing it than just, and more accurate than just doing it with scissors, but no, it's not too bad. I better cut myself. I hate adapter plates. I've never been a big fan of them because they, if you look at the flow, it's terrible. But for running camshafts in and that sort of thing, they're fine. So in order to put these studs in, you can see they're fine thread. They're both 5/16. They're sort of fine thread on one side and coarse on the other. I'm just going to lock two of these fine threads together. And because they've been plated, I'm just going to put a bit of anti-seize over the base of them. So I have to get carried away with this stuff. I think I've used it in the other videos. If I repeat myself, it's because I can't remember what I've said in the other videos. So I do apologise. Let's start off here first. Oh, get in there. It was made by a guy, this stainless plate that I work with called David Godfrey, and he's an absolute whiz. And his work's beautiful. You can see he did a better job with the stainless than I did on the gasket, which is so much easier. But he never complains. I asked him to do him a favour, and it was actually a really tricky piece to cut out. And he's a wonderful man. He just, yeah, no worries, you know, nothing's a problem for him, which is so unusual these days. He's the one bloke in a volatile industry who nobody ever wants to see leave. So I'll get the carburetor out and plop that on. And it does. We just put these little lock washers on. And, oh, actually no, I might fuel it up first. I think I'll fuel it up first to make sure it isn't leaking, as I said before. Drop that bloody thing. And then we can start him up because it's still nice and warm. I wanted to do it while the engine was warm. Alright, well I've had to go and get another 1.5 metre of fuel line. Had to go to Supercheap. It's Saturday afternoon. I don't normally go there, but that way I can sort of power up this fuel pump and see if it leaks. I'm just getting fuel up there now. So I can hear it going in. I'm just paranoid about it. Alright, so we've got pressure. I'm just looking for any fuel leaks. I'll just turn that off for a second. Alright. Just want to make sure it's not leaking anywhere it shouldn't. But if it's all good, I can just lift this off. There's no fuel leaking out the bottom, so I can now nip the carburetor down and start him up. Oops. So I'm just going diagonally. It's easier to do the back with a spanner. Don't want to over tighten it. Just got to block off. I've got to put a PCV hose on, and the EGR valve too. Before I get too carried away doing plumbing and so forth, I've got the PCV on. That's just got a bolt in it. That's my ultimate hate, but it doesn't matter for starting out. I just want to make sure it runs, and it's not going to be too far out. So we'll just give him a start up and see how we go. Oh, hang on. Oh, I might put a spring there first. Hang on a minute. I shouldn't rush this sort of thing. I've got to go and pick my daughter up. Oh, and I always sort of promise to have a milkshake with her when I can, and she's waiting for me. So I just want to There we go, lovely. Alright, here we go. Pretty unsuccessful. What have we got? But it is running all right. Got to be happy with that. I think that runs well. So, I'm not going to set the choke up on the engine stand. I'm going to put the engine in the car. I'll have to do it in there because I've got to take this off the stand and put the stand in the shed. I'm going to make all this room over here. If you look over there next to where the fridge is in this area here, I want to sort of keep that room empty, which is where I was using the stand. Right, so I've packed up for now. Carburetor's a success. I've just got to set the choke up, as I said before. I've started taking hoses off, that sort of thing, the wiring, all this sort of business, to take it off the stand. And we've just started raining. The sky's absolutely black, so I was in a hurry to sort of pack up shop, so I brought the Plymmy and the XW in. That XW, I've got that Holly 600 and a brand new Edelbrock Performer. Now, that was supposed to, there it is over there. My brother bought it for me for Christmas a couple of years ago. It's got to go on this car. Now, this is still running the little 2-barrel for running in. Of course, I've done about 600 miles in it now, and so it needs to have that other manifold put on, and that'll really wake it up. It's got good, very, very strong mid-range, and I'm expecting that Lunatic cam to do good things once it's got a Holly 600. So that's another project as well. And it was only ever intended to be a temporary thing, having that 2V sort of carburetor on it. So I've got that to do as well, but the XC is a priority. So I've ditched the XW and I've ditched the Plymouth. And in the next couple of days I'll have it in. Just got to get that, just let the stormy weather pass, and I think we're in a good position to keep going with it. But I am very, very happy with it. I was nervous about this. These are a bit of a can of worms, these carburetors. But once I've got it plumbed up properly, I'm expecting really good things. So I'll be back in a couple of days. Well, don't these look lovely? I've fitted the tyres to the rims. Had to use some second-hand weights. Oh, that's all we had at work. In the 30 grams, it seems 30 gram. Well, that one's got a fuel in it there. But 30 grams was about the amount they were out. I've got to put them on the car now. This guard, they can go in the shed that I've built, just to free up a little bit of room while I work on things. That's the spare for the XD down there, and it's not holding air, so I'll just bang a tube and it's going to be cheaper than getting it puncture repaired. That's pretty easy, it's only a spare, and of course we've got some daggy ones down there which can be discarded. I've got to book the XD in for a front end alignment, so I'll pay a bit extra and dispose of the tyres that way. So even though this car is going to be hardly original, I do like the stock original look, so I think that's going to look really good. Right, well there are a few days of school holidays left. You can see I haven't buffed this properly. I just did the roof for one of the other videos. I've got to finish buffing all this, but I thought while I've got a couple of days left, I'd take these axles out and put new seals in and bearings, and then I can sort of fill the rear axle up and forget about it. I think it's XF wagon, this one. Now, I kept one of the old disc rotors, and there's a difference between XD, E and F in that there's about 1 millimetre of offset difference between E and F and XD, which is sort of standalone. So I've kept this to make some measurements in order to do that, but it's easy if I can get into work and press these bearings before students go back, because there's a load of apprentices this year. The place is absolutely flat out. So when I clean the rear axle up, I didn't clean the axle housing up, sorry, I didn't clean the actual axle up. It's a bit dirty, but I can take this out now. It might be a bit of a hassle to get out, in that it's I didn't have it out before. Now I can use a disc rotor as a slide hammer on here, and you can't tighten wheels up on here because they allow for the thickness of the disc. You can't tighten them up without the disc on. But for rolling it around, it was all right. But now I've got the backing plates, which I had done ages ago, powder coated, so that can all go on, and you know I can work around getting this out. But it's likely to be a bit of a pain in that it's probably hasn't been out for a few years. But I'm not all that sure what the axle was out of. I know it was either, I think it was an XF wagon, but whatever the case, knowing those measurements is prudent, because that way you can buy the right ones, and you won't get, even if you go to the parts store and they look in a book, you know you're getting the right one if you actually know what the measurements are that you're looking for. So I'll just take this axle out. There I come. Stick this backwards. Couple of nuts on. I don't think this is going to work. I might have to use a wheel rim to actually yank on it. I'm just putting the nuts on backwards so we get the flat part of it. Give it a good. I think that's coming. Well, that's got it. Oh, a couple of good yanks and a tiny bit of bad language, not much. Hang on, I've got to get the bloody rim off now. You just get more weight with the wheel. It's like using a bigger slide hammer, I guess. Now, these are another thing that's different. There are 3 different types of axle bearing. And this one is the tapered roller, which I think is the dearer of them. Let me get the camera and show you. Right, but there are 3 different types of axle bearing. This is the tapered roller one. The others are fatter with an enclosed race. So these ones, I remember when I looked at it, one looked a bit noisier than the others. I'll just take that out and have a look. Well, you can see this thing's sort of at the end of its life. A lot of the hardening's been worn away. The good thing about bearings, though, they normally have a number on them, but this one doesn't look like it does. It's probably a cheap bearing. They normally always have a part number on them. It might actually be on the race down there. But I wanted to buy them before I went to work on Thursday. So, we'll get the other side out and we'll see how that is. So when we look at these discs, we've got to consider the distance between the top here and down here as well. Now, XDs I think are 69.5 or something, and XFs are supposed to be 71. Now, this one's coming in at 70, which looks like an XD one, but it's not, because it would have been machined, of course. This is measuring at about 21.5, and I think minimum thickness on the front of these is 22.3. I'm not sure about the rear, but that would have given it the extra that it needs to get to 71, I would think. So I've got the spare parts guys looking at this, but that's one thing you need to look out for. You need to know exactly what you're buying. So I've got the engine ready to remove now. Everything's disconnected from it. It's still got the carburetor on. I have to, I've left it on because I want to fabricate the choke lines for it, which are just going to be in 3/16. They're not going to be the proper width of the other stuff, but look, I think it'll be alright. The main thing is it'll run off the electric side of things. So I've left it on for that reason. When we put it in the car with the gearbox and everything on it, well then we'll obviously take it off and take the water pump and or take the alternator and all that sort of stuff off. I might use a leveler on this. I haven't used one before. I just normally use that chain that's sitting on the top. But one thing I want to do is I want to take a measurement between the ring gear and the backing plate, which has got a bit of a bend in it, which isn't much good, but I just want some idea. I can't see a damn thing there. I just need to get my light, but I'll take a measurement there so I know exactly how far it is. I thought that was oil for a minute. I want to take a measurement so I know exactly how far it is. So when I measure the new one, I know what I'm in for. But yep, we're ready to take it off now. I make sure when I lift it, I don't want to put any. I don't want it. I should take the carburetor off. I really should. I'm clearing the front. Okay, that looks all right. Bit of stress up off it. That's all right there, I think. Come here, old boy. Don't you hit that radiator. Oh, camera's in the way. There we go. There we go. Let's move this little guy out the way here. Wheel that out. We'll go into the nice new shed, and I'll just take these mounts and things off. Just lower it down a little bit. There we go. Looking good. Stick it on the inside there. Bolt up here somewhere. Here it is. And so on the ground we can fit the mounts, and I'll use different bolts. That's off a cheap stand, that bolt, so I'll just use different ones. Because I don't know how, they don't even look to be high tensile. This thing's bloody heavy though. Here we go. That's heavy. All good. Right. I'm just rest him down for now. Well, we've got a couple of bits to wash. The two axles obviously have to be put through the parts wash, and new bearings and seals fitted. That's the cross member, I hope it's the right one. There's also the rear brake calipers there, and I've got the belt housing as well, so I've got to clean all that stuff up. Got the engine here ready to start dressing with the clutch and all that sort of stuff. I'll remove that carburetor. I'll just cover that up at the moment. And take the fan off and the pulleys, that sort of thing. A little bit worried about these belt housing bolts, not enough thread being grabbed there. These could be automatic ones, I'm not sure. So I'll order a new set of them as well in time for the next video. There is some surface rust there, and I had a little bit of trouble getting the spigot to go over there. It just feels a tiny bit too tight. I'm wondering if it's the right size. It did, yeah, there it is. It just feels a tiny bit stiff. I'll just clean that up a bit more, and before we put the gearbox in, we'll lubricate it. I'm actually not doing a very good job of this. I shouldn't be doing it this way. It just has to be dead square for it to go on. It just feels a little bit... It's just got to be dead square. That's alright, I think. Just a bit stiff at the end. One thing I forgot to do actually before I undid it, there's a little witness mark on here because the these are offset. So I'm just going to draw up on the edge of the crank which way that is. And that should be good to go. So I can pop that off. And the slinger plate. And that all looks really good. So I'll put that that spigot in now. You hear the tone change when it seats. One thing that also probably wouldn't hurt, just so we can get the gearbox on nice and easily, just got this broom around here, is just these dowels. I noticed the other, the belt housing was a bit stiff to get on and off. Let's clean those dowels off a bit, those locators. They're sitting in a really, really peculiar way, but anyway. And then we can stick our sandwich on. And this is just an aftermarket mild steel sandwich plate that I bought online. Good for the manual car, and we can just plonk that on. Hopefully that's all central. Might just check that with a couple of bolts. I've got a lot of trust in some aftermarket stuff. That's all good. It's just my silly imagination, that's all. It just didn't look right, but because I'm doing it at a funny angle, it's probably, it doesn't hurt just to make a few little checks like that. And I'm fairly happy with that. That's cool. And of course we've got our flywheel here. Where's that mark? Is that the mark there? I can't remember where the mark is. Anyway, we'll just... You can put these on and spin them around until you get it right. But it's heavy. I've got it sitting up on a brake pad so that it... so it's easy to pick up, because when it's flat on the ground, there it is there, so the witness mark is there. So I can just put that up against the crankshaft and get it on. Of course we're using good quality ARP kit. You can see these ones here are a little bit longer than ones from the Automagic. So you'll find that they protrude a little bit further, which is cool. That's what they're supposed to do. Bearing in mind the flywheel is thicker. And we don't also need to use that torque ring. That's a reinforcement. Whoa, that's a reinforcement. It's a reinforcement for the drive plate, because obviously they're a lot thinner and a bit weaker. So we bag and tag that to use on the XD engine we're going to do next. So we'll just unwrap these, take them out, and they come with a bit of assembly lube, which surprises me a bit, but they do. And then torque the box to 75 foot-pounds. So that's the information we need. We'll get some Loctite and we'll stick it in. Okay, I'm just going to plonk this up. It's never fun doing this. And I'll put that there. And there's a little thing that it'll sit on. It was down there, I think. And I'll just stick one in, and that'll just hold it in place. Maybe even two. Is that right? Just double check that with these others, and then we'll take them out and do the other stuff. Just makes less handling, that's all. If you can do it like this, it makes things a lot easier. So I'll stick some Loctite on them and start tightening them up. you shouldn't do this. This is a non-impact socket. I'll torque them up. Did we do this one? Oh. Now, one thing I was worried about when I bought this clutch setup is it uses 3/8 bolts, and I've got to use these Chevy ones, and they're Holden as well. And I was worried about the reach on them because the bolts have a little washer. Hang on. Like a little lock washer, is it? That's just a flat washer. I think that can go either way. And I wanted to see how far they went in, because at the end of the day I might have to, and I probably should have done it on the bench beforehand, there's going to have to be a little bit drilled out. Purists might like to look away while I do this. I should have done it on a pedestal drill with a depth gauge on, but I didn't. I'm just allowing room for the shoulder on that clutch bolt to fall in. So I'll go around and do these. Okay, we've got them all done. So we'll just get out the 3/8 course tap and just clean up the end of those threads. Well, that didn't look overly nice, did it? But at the end of the day, these 3/8 bolts have got more depth, more grip, everything than this little 5/16 ones, which Ford used as standard. So I'll just go around and clean these up a bit. Now, I haven't got the washer on here, or the clutch plate, the pressure plate, but this will go. Yeah, that stops not even 1/8 of an inch, so there's plenty of room there for the washer and the pressure plate, and heaps of threads, so we're good. I'll just take these stickers off. There's a bit of residue there and so forth to stop the things corroding, but that's normal. We'll get that off with a bit of thinner. There's one on the flywheel as well. There's also a tiny bit of surface rust on here. It's going to take just a rough off, that's alright. All that sort of gummy stuff that comes off with stickers. I haven't got a clutch aligning tool. I've always done that by eye. I'll just get some of this rough. The only time I've ever used one is on a twin plate, years and years ago, on another XL I had, but in industry, you just do it by eye, look along the splines, and it's all good. So just get a bit of thinners. Thinners is the best thing to use. If there's any muck there, it'll take it off. If there's any lacquer or anything like that that the manufacturers have put there, doesn't matter what it is, the thinner will remove it. But I'll clean these right up. I don't know if the camera can see this flywheel I'm doing at the moment. Pressure plate, sorry. And of course, as everyone knows, the flat side goes toward the engine, this side goes in here, so it just sort of sits like that. Let's get a couple of our lovely little ARP bolts ready, and I'm just going to sort of put it on a haphazard way to start with, just to get it started, and then I'll center it later. I can get this off. Okay, where are we? Here's one. And here's another one. Where are it? There it is there. You can sort of center it roughly with your fingers. And you just have them loose, and you can put a screwdriver in and just sort of flick them around where you want them. You have to look right up, dead square up the center. Probably not the right way to do it. But to be quite honest, I don't really care. If it works, it works. If the gear bag goes in, then we know it was all good. So we're just looking in there along the splines, and that's out at the moment. But you can just put a screwdriver in and sort of knock it into position just by tapping it either way until you get it central. And what I've noticed about this is that the splines, when they're perfectly in line, meet up with the inner race of the spigot bearing really well. So that said, I'll just create a bit more drag on it. Just nip up a few of those a bit before we start collapsing fingers. And I reckon that's pretty good. Might be just a tiny bit out of. We can generally feel it. I might just move it up a tiny bit, eh? That would be spot on there, I reckon. I reckon that's it there. Alright, that's good. You want to keep an eye on these fingers, make sure you do it evenly. There's another one down here somewhere, where is it there? And then we've got 3/8, so we button them up to 45 foot-pounds. I don't know if you can just see the back of my arm doing this. I've noticed on some of the other ones I've done, that's been the case, and I should apologise for that. Right, so that's about all I'm going to do for this one. I've sort of run out of time. We've got the clutch on, it's all looking very, very good. The next thing for this is obviously to put the belt housing on and mount the gearbox up, but I haven't cleaned that up yet. I'll give it a lick of paint. The next thing I've got to do, I've got this power steering line, and interestingly the Thompson fitting, which is down there, the old Thompson fitting is the same as the Sagnal, and of course that just bolts in there. Now it's easier to put that in before the engine, so I've got to do that too. So anyway, drive safely, enjoy Classic, and I'll see you later.